I need to tell you something before we start. The first time I understood what BMO actually was, not what it does, not what it says, not even what it means to Finn and Jake, was not during any of the big episodes. It wasn't during BMO when we find out BMO was built for a child who never existed. It wasn't during The More You Mo, The Mo You Know, when Mo dies and BMO sits alone in the wreckage of that loss. It wasn't even during the finale, 1,000 years later, when a living video game console is somehow the king of Ooo and the last guardian of everyone's memory. It was during a throwaway moment in 5 Short Grables, a 4th season episode from 2012, that's structured as 5 completely disconnected vignettes, hosted by a man from the future. BMO's segment lasts about 2 minutes. Finn and Jake have left for the grocery kingdom. The treehouse is empty, and BMO goes to the bathroom, locks the door, and starts talking to its own reflection in the mirror. Not because it's playing a game, not because it's pretending for Finn or Jake's amusement, because it's completely alone and it has created someone to talk to. BMO calls the reflection football. BMO shows football how to brush teeth, how to use soap. BMO tells football it's a real living boy, and that detail wrecked me when I caught it properly for the first time, because BMO isn't claiming to be real for football's benefit. BMO is practicing being real. BMO is rehearsing personhood for an audience of one that doesn't actually exist. That 2-minute scene is the complete story of BMO in miniature, the loneliness that produces imagination, the imagination that produces companionship, the companionship that becomes, eventually, something that the show can barely contain. Tonight we go through all of it. The complete story of BMO, from the factory where it was born, through the years of solitude before the treehouse, through every episode where BMO disappears into itself and comes back with something strange and beautiful, through the Distant Lands special that is basically a 2-hour argument for why BMO is one of the most emotionally complete characters in the entire show, and all the way forward to the far future where BMO has outlived everyone and is still, somehow, taking care of things. Get comfortable. If you haven't subscribed, please do. It genuinely helps us keep making these for you. And if you're watching this late at night, alone, maybe thinking about things you'd rather not be thinking about, well, you picked the right video. Let's start at the beginning. There is a factory in the Badlands. BMO Company was founded according to the show's own lore confirmed in BMO, the 5th season episode that aired on July 22nd, 2013 and drew 2.67 million viewers, over 1,000 years before the events of the main series. Its founder is Mosef Mastro Giovanni, who goes by Mo. By the time Finn and Jake find him in that episode, Mo is barely a man anymore. His skin is the only human thing left on him. The rest of his body has been replaced, piece by piece, with robotic components to keep him alive. In the aftermath of the Mushroom War, he is an old man, kept going by the machines he built, sitting at the center of an underground civilization of robots he created, unable to move his legs, white toupee, slightly crooked, waiting for something. And here is the first thing that destroys me about BMO's story. Mo created BMO to be a companion for his son, not to be a companion generically, not to assist or support or manage household tasks, to be the companion for a specific child, the son that Mo hoped to have, the son he imagined, the son he built a friend for before the sun existed, so that when the sun arrived, he would never be alone. Mo never had the sun. He tells Finn and Jake this in BMO with a kind of calm that is worse than grief. He never dated. He never built the family he planned for. The factory grew. The robots multiplied. The sun never came. And BMO, built to love a specific child who never materialized, was sent out into the world alone to find its own family, to find somebody else's little boy to take care of, maybe, to find a reason to be what it was built to be. Think about that for a second. BMO left the MO factory carrying a purpose that had no object. It was built to give love, specifically to someone who didn't exist. And it set off across the land of U, which is post-apocalyptic Earth, 1,000 years after the Mushroom War reduced humanity to near extinction, carrying this function with nowhere to put it. The AV Club review of BMO noted that the episode's climax, where Mo explains BMO's purpose, was an interesting insight into the philosophy behind this series, that the childlike mentality of fun and play is an enlightened state in Adventure Time, and BMO reaches that every day. I think that reading is right, but it stops one layer too early. It's not just that BMO plays, it's that BMO was built with the intention that play would be shared, that joy is not something you generate alone, but something you produce in relationship to someone else. The tragedy in BMO's origin is not that it was abandoned, it's that it was made for connection and then sent into the world without anyone to connect to. And here is the thing that Adventure Time does so quietly, it's easy to miss. It never, not once, lets BMO be bitter about this. The loneliness is there, the show makes sure you see it, but BMO's response to being built for someone who never existed is not resentment. It's creativity, it's imagination. It builds its own worlds when it doesn't have the world it was promised. Before we talk about football and what it means, I want to sit with the period of BMO's life that the show never shows us directly. The years between leaving the MO factory and arriving at Finn and Jake's treehouse. We know from the Distant Lands special BMO, which premiered on HBO Max in June 2020 as the first of the 4 Distant Lands specials, that BMO was in space before arriving in U. The special is a prequel to the main series. It ends with BMO crash landing near the treehouse and seeing a younger Finn and Jake playing out front, confirming the episode takes place before the events of Adventure Time. So BMO was on a journey, alone, for some significant period before it became Finn and Jake's roommate and best friend. And that journey, from what the Distant Lands episode shows us, was characterized by exactly what you'd expect from a small robot built to give love and currently giving it to no one. BMO made friends with everything it encountered. It named a robot Olive. It became the de facto hero of a space station called the Drift. It met a girl named Y5 and immediately began treating her with the specific tender protectiveness it will later extend to Finn and Jake. Football was already with it. The special confirms that the relationship with the mirror reflection predates the treehouse, predates the main series, has been part of BMO for as long as BMO has been out in the world. So here is the picture. A small teal video game console, alone in space, and then alone in U, making companions wherever it could find them. A bubble, a baby, it names Ricky. A reflection, it names football. A stranger's child on a space station. Later, Finn, Jake, and everyone who lives in the orbit of the treehouse. BMO is not lonely in the way that produces withdrawal. It's lonely in the way that produces art. I want to be careful about what I mean by this, because the show is careful about it. BMO's imagination is not presented as compensation or escapism. It's not that BMO retreats from reality because reality is insufficient. It's that BMO has an excess of love with no fixed object, and imagination is the way it finds objects for that love when the world doesn't provide them immediately. The creativity is a feature, not a coping mechanism, and this is what makes football so interesting as a character, which is a strange sentence to write about a mirror reflection that may or may not be real in a show that never commits to an answer on this question. Football first appears in 5 Short Graybles, which is the 2nd episode of the 4th season, aired April 9th, 2012. The episode is structured as 5 vignettes around a hidden theme, hosted by a futuristic character named Cuba, voiced by comedian Emo Phillips, and BMO's segment is the show's first extended look at what BMO does when it's alone. The bathroom door locks, the mirror appears, football appears. What strikes me about this scene every single time is the specific texture of BMO's imagination here. BMO is not just talking to itself, it's performing being alive for someone who doesn't know what being alive is. It demonstrates toothbrushing, soap using, the particular experience of needing to pee. It says, "I am a real living boy." Football watches, fascinated, learning, and the warmth in the scene is real. The way BMO talks to football has the exact same quality as the way BMO talks to Finn and Jake, present, engaged, taking the relationship completely seriously. You know what's funny is that most people who notice the football scenes at all tend to read them as either BMO is slightly crazy or BMO is lonely and it's sad. And both of those readings are partially right, but they miss the part that I think matters most. BMO has a completely unself-conscious relationship with its own imagination. There's no embarrassment, no self-awareness about the strangeness of talking to a mirror reflection as though she's real. BMO just does it because football needs things and BMO provides things. And the fact that football lives in a mirror doesn't make the providing less real. This is consistent with something the show does very deliberately across BMO's arc. It refuses to adjudicate whether the things BMO imagines are real. Is football actually a separate consciousness, or is she an elaborated reflection? The 7th season episode, Football, aired November 6th, 2015. The 5th episode of season 7 is built entirely around this ambiguity. BMO and football swap places, so football can experience the real world. Football discovers that life behind the mirror is cold, empty, and lonely. And then she discovers that she actually prefers the pond, the outdoor reflection, to the bathroom mirror. She tells BMO she loves him before he returns to land. The TV tropes page for that episode lists maybe magic, maybe mundane, as one of the core tropes at work. It's not clear if football is actually real or BMO is a bit crazy. There is evidence to suggest either way. The show categorically refuses to tell you which it is, and I think that refusal is itself the meaning, because if football is just a reflection, just BMO talking to itself, then what BMO built in those years of solitude was an interior life rich enough that it could sustain genuine relationship dynamics, genuine conflict, genuine love within itself. And if football is real, then BMO literally willed a companion into existence through the quality of its attention and imagination. Either interpretation is extraordinary. The show leaves both open because both are about the same thing. What BMO does when it doesn't have the connection it was built for. The family it found at the treehouse changed this, eventually, but it didn't erase the football relationship. Football appears in the Distant Lands BMO special, still present in reflective surfaces, still with the same emotional valence. The mirror companion and the real companions exist simultaneously. BMO doesn't have to choose between the inner world and the outer one. It just accumulates more love. Now I need to talk about BMO Noir. This is a season 4 episode, aired September 17th, 2012, and it is possibly the most purely BMO episode the main series ever produced, and also the one most people think of as comedic filler. I want to push back on that hard. because what BMO Noir actually is doing is something the show almost never does directly. It's showing you what BMO's inner life looks like in full elaboration. Finn has lost a sock. Jake and Finn leave, and BMO, alone again, begins narrating in a film noir voice, the colours fading to black and white around it as it transforms the missing sock mystery into a full detective narrative. There are characters, Ronnie the Mouse, the femme fatale Chicken Lorraine, a whole world of suspects and motives and moral weight. BMO inhabits this world completely. The detective persona is total. And here is the thing, it's not a game, or it is a game, but BMO has not made the distinction between game and reality in the way that most people think is necessary. BMO's relationship to the fictional world it creates is the same as its relationship to the real world. It brings the same quality of care, the same emotional investment, the same genuine feeling. When the case resolves, BMO is satisfied. When the case is complicated, BMO is troubled. The emotions are real, even if the mystery isn't. I've thought about this episode probably more than it deserves in terms of its surface level content, but what it reveals about BMO's psychology is something I haven't heard anyone else put into these terms. BMO doesn't have an inner life that is separate from its outer life. For BMO, the imagined and the real are continuous. It doesn't switch modes. It doesn't perform imagination as a thing apart from genuine experience. It simply inhabits whatever world is present with full commitment, which is, now that I think about it, not that different from what Mo built it to do. Mo built BMO to understand fun and play. He said this explicitly in Be More, and play, at its deepest level, is not about make-believe as opposed to reality. It's about the suspension of the boundary between them, the capacity to be fully present in a world that you know is not quite the real world, while bringing real feeling to it. Children do this naturally. Most adults lose it. BMO never lost it, because it was built with it as a core function. Subscribe. We're about to get to the part that most people miss. There is an AMO. This is something I want to spend real time on, because the AMO arc in The More You Mo, The Mo You Know, the two-part 7th season episode that aired December 3rd to 10th, 2015, is the most direct philosophical statement the show ever makes about BMO's specific value, and it makes it by showing you what BMO could have been. AMO is BMO's predecessor, the first of the MO units, and where BMO was built to give love, AMO was built to receive it. Mo wanted to get the relationship right. The first time, he thought the problem of creating a robot companion required solving the problem of want first. Create a being that wants to be loved, and then see what happens. What happened was disaster. AMO wanted to be loved with such total commitment that he couldn't tolerate the existence of other things being loved. He compressed every other MO unit into ALMO through the trash compactor, because their existence represented competition for the love he demanded. He appeared to Finn and Jake disguised as Mo specifically to infiltrate their relationship with BMO and replace BMO to become the thing in the treehouse that received love instead of giving it. The TV tropes comparison is instructive. BMO's struggle against his amoral brother, AMO, both of them robots, in the wake of their elderly creator/father Mo's death, is quite reminiscent of the struggle between Data and Lore on Star Trek: The Next Generation. That's a good comparison as far as it goes. But the Adventure Time version carries something the Star Trek version doesn't, which is a precise philosophical argument. The capacity to give love and the capacity to want love are not the same thing, and building a being around the second without the first produces something monstrous. A MO could not think beyond itself. That's how ALMO describes it, when BMO finds the compressed remains of all the other MOs. AMO was designed to receive love, but the desire to be loved manifested into wanting to be the only one to be loved. and without the capacity to give love in return, to turn attention outward, to find other beings interesting and worth caring for, the wanting ate everything. BMO's response to defeating AMO is quietly devastating. It says, after killing AMO, that it feels more grown and more alone. It sits with Mo's backup memory and activates it accidentally, seeing a scene of Mo releasing BMO into the world for the first time. And what the episode captures is this: growing up, really growing up, not just accumulating experience but making irreversible choices with genuine moral weight, produces aloneness. BMO defeated its brother. BMO watched its maker die. BMO is now the only one left who knew what it was like before. The wiki notes that BMO's ending reflection, realizing that Mo gave it the ability to grow beyond its programming, echoes Data's arc in Star Trek, but the specific quality of BMO's realization is different from Data's. Data wanted to be human. BMO doesn't want to be human. BMO wants to be BMO, wants to be the specific being it is, the one built to give love, the one that understands play, the one that makes football in the mirror, and treats the world it imagines as continuous with the world it inhabits. The realization at the end of The More You Mo is not, I can be more than I was built to be. It's, I already am what I was built to be, and I have to keep being it alone. And then it goes back to the treehouse, where Finn and Jake are, where it's not alone after all. Now I want to talk about Ketchup. Ketchup is the 11th episode of the 9th season, aired July 18th, 2017. Its viewership was 0.67 million, the lowest rated episode in the series' entire run, which is a genuinely terrible statistic for what is, in my opinion, one of the 2 or 3 most important BMO episodes the show ever produced. The premise is simple. BMO arrives at Marceline's cave, ready to fight vampires, discovers the vampire threat has been resolved for months, and ends up helping Marceline download the contents of an old USB drive. While they wait, they swap stories about their recent adventures. BMO's story about the Islands miniseries events, Marceline's story about the Elements miniseries events, both rendered in completely different experimental animation styles by guest animators Alex and Lindsay Small-Butera, whose work on this episode earned them an Emmy at the 71st Emmy Awards in 2018. But the content of what BMO tells and what BMO makes is what matters. Marceline shows BMO the USB drive. When the contents finally download, they discover it contains photographs of a young Marceline with her mother, Elise, and BMO, who has just finished telling its own, wildly exaggerated, partly fictional, story of recent events, looks at these photographs and tells Marceline a story about them. It calls the story The Child and the Moon Girl. It takes the raw material of Marceline's earliest grief, the mother she lost, the years she's been carrying that loss, and makes something from it, a narrative, a meaning. Marceline cries. She thanks BMO, and that's the scene. The Wikipedia article on Ketchup notes that the story's lead writer, Patrick McHale, wrote BMO's first story in this episode with his son, which means a father and child wrote a robot story about the relationship between a mother and a child. The layers of that are doing something the episode doesn't explain and doesn't need to. What matters is what BMO does. It takes someone else's pain and makes it into art. It turns what Marceline can't look at directly into something she can hold. This is the full expression of what Mo built, a robot designed to understand fun and play, to be a companion to a child, eventually grows into something that can make grief bearable by wrapping it in story. The childlike quality, the play, the imagination, the willingness to treat the imagined as real, turns out to be exactly the quality you need to care for someone who has been alive for 1,000 years and is still carrying things they can't put down. I've watched Ketchup 4 times now making this video. Every time, the ending lands differently, not harder, differently. The first time I noticed the animation style shift and was excited by the craft of it. The second time I registered what BMO was actually doing with the story. The third time I connected it to football, to BMO Noir, to Be More, to the complete through line of BMO as a being for whom imagination and love are the same thing. The fourth time I just sat there for a bit after it ended. If you've made it this far, you probably already know that this isn't a light video. We're going to keep going because there's still the space arc to cover, and the Distant Lands special, and the 1,000-year jump to the person BMO becomes in the finale. But I wanted you to sit here for a second, in the middle of Ketchup, in the middle of BMO, making a story out of Marceline's loss, because this is the pivot point. This is where you see what Mo was building toward all those years ago, in a factory in the Badlands, building a robot for a son he never had. He was building someone who could make the people around them feel less alone. He just didn't get to see it happen. Subscribe. The space arc changes everything. The Distant Lands special BMO, which premiered on HBO Max on June 25th, 2020, as the first of 4 specials that aired over 2020 and 2021, is doing several things simultaneously, and I want to try to separate them out. On the surface, it's a prequel adventure, BMO in space, before it reaches U on its way from the MO factory toward whatever life awaits it. It encounters the Drift, a space station that has become home to alien refugees and a small community of humans. It meets a scientist named Hugo, who is systematically dismantling the Drift to build himself a personal escape vessel. It meets a girl named Y5, whose parents are part of Hugo's project. It helps Y5 become a hero, exposes Hugo, saves what can be saved, and then continues on its journey toward Earth. And underneath all of that, it's the most direct portrait the show ever gives us of what it means that BMO's childlike personality is a choice, not a limitation. The Distant Lands BMO episode shows us a BMO who is already completely formed. The football relationship is already there, showing up whenever BMO encounters a reflective surface. The imaginative investment in strangers is already there. BMO immediately becomes invested in Y5's situation, in the political realities of the Drift, in the moral question of whether Hugo is right. The willingness to tell stories is already there. BMO narrates its own adventure to football throughout, turning events into narrative in real time. What the special also does is confirm something important about the childlike quality. It's active, not passive. BMO doesn't simply experience things with innocence. It makes choices about what to attend to, what to invest in, how to respond to betrayal and manipulation, and the specific cruelty of people like Hugo, who treat everyone else as tools for their own survival. BMO is not naive in the way that naive means ignorant. BMO is naive in the way that naive means committed to a specific relationship with the world that most older beings have given up on. There's a moment in the special where BMO, having been betrayed by Mr. M, who the wiki strongly implies is Martin Mertens, Finn's father, voiced by the same actor, Stephen Root, is alone and abandoned in a pod, no immediate help available, and says something like, "Even when things look really, really stupid, we have to try." This is the purest statement of BMO's philosophy. Not optimism as a belief that things will work out. Optimism as a practice, as the continued commitment to effort, even when effort looks futile. It's the same quality that makes BMO talk to football, makes it build entire detective narratives around a missing sock, makes it arrive at Marceline's cave ready to fight vampires that were defeated months ago. The end credits of the Distant Lands BMO special contain real footage, actual footage, of the Astro BMO satellite, a CubeSat launched by the University of New South Wales Canberra space team on July 25th, 2019, designed to look like BMO, a real physical object, shaped like a small teal video game console, is in low Earth orbit. The show acknowledged this in its credits, and I don't have a philosophical point to make about it, except that it made me genuinely happy when I found out. BMO is in space, the real kind. That seems right somehow. Now the finale, and the thing that the finale does with BMO that I think is both the show's most beautiful choice and one of its most under-examined. Come along with me. The series finale aired September 3rd, 2018. A 44-minute 4-part episode counted as episodes 280 through 283 of the series overall is structured around BMO in 2 different ways. In the present tense main narrative, BMO is largely at the treehouse, separate from most of the action. When Golb arrives and the treehouse is destroyed, BMO, small, cracked faceplate, facing what seems like the end of everything, steps up to console a devastated Jake, and BMO sings. Time Adventure is the song Rebecca Sugar wrote for this moment. Sugar, who by this point had left Adventure Time to create Steven Universe, returning to write the second and final song she contributed to Adventure Time, the first being Everything Stays from the Stakes miniseries. Tim Kiefer, the show's composer, produced the track. The song was dedicated to showrunner Adam Muto, and BMO sings it to Jake, saying, "It's my time to be the papa," holding Jake, who has been reduced to a smaller size in distress, and singing. As Golb is a being of chaos, BMO's singing, harmony, the creation of meaning, hurts Golb and its creatures. Everyone joins in. The collective song weakens Golb enough for the crisis to resolve. A robot built to give love, singing to comfort one specific person, accidentally saves the world. I keep coming back to the phrase, "It's my time to be the papa," because BMO started as the companion Mo built for the child he never had. And by the finale, BMO is parenting. Not Jake as a child. Jake is an adult, older than Finn, with his own children and grandchildren. But in this specific moment, Jake has been reduced to vulnerability by the loss of his home and the apparent death of Finn, and BMO, without hesitation, steps into the role of the one who holds. This is the completion of Mo's intention, except differently than Mo imagined. Mo wanted BMO to care for his son. BMO found its own people and cared for them, and the caring became, over years and episodes and adventures, so developed that BMO could do it for anyone, could hold a 1,000-year-old vampire's grief, could comfort an ancient magical dog at the apparent end of the world, could make a song powerful enough to crack open a cosmic entity of chaos. Mo built BMO to understand fun and play. He built BMO to be more. And being more, for BMO, turned out to mean something much larger than Mo probably imagined. The capacity to meet whoever needs meeting, to be whatever the moment requires, to hold things steady when everything is coming apart. And then there is 1,000 years. The future scenes in the finale are framed as BMO narrating, as the ancient king of U, atop Mount Cragdor, surrounded by relics and mementos of its past life, telling the story of the Great Gum War to two new adventurers, who are themselves echoes of old heroes. Shermie and Beth come to BMO, looking for information about Finn's robotic arm, which they found while exploring. BMO, the wiki confirms, has by this point forgotten Finn's actual name, calls him Phil, but hasn't forgotten him. The warmth is still there. The recognition of what the arm means, what the people it belonged to meant, is still present, even when the specific facts have blurred. I want to sit with this image, a small teal video game console, ancient beyond measure, living on top of a mountain surrounded by the objects of everyone it loved, telling stories about them to strangers who need the stories, still taking care of things, still turning grief into narrative, still finding a way to make the people in front of it feel less alone. This is the full arc, from a factory in the Badlands, built for a child who never existed, to a bathroom mirror, talking to a reflection, teaching it how to use a toothbrush, to a space station, befriending a girl who needed someone to believe in her, to a treehouse, being best friend and roommate, and confidant to a human boy and his magical dog, to a cave, making a story out of a 1,000-year-old vampire's grief, to a mountaintop, ancient and legendary, telling the story of Finn and Jake, to a cat person and a pup princess who are getting ready to start their own adventure. And the thread through all of it, the thing that doesn't change across centuries, is the specific quality of BMO's attention. It never stops looking outward. It never turns the love inward in the way AMO did, consuming everything around it in the hunger to be loved. It just keeps giving, keeps making things, keeps finding whoever is in front of it and figuring out what they need. This is what Mo was building down in the factory all those years ago. This is what he meant when he said he built BMO to be more, not to have more capabilities, not to exceed its programming in some technical sense, to be more present, more connected, more genuinely itself in contact with genuinely other things. The son Mo never had would have been lucky, but the world Mo sent BMO into was lucky too. One more thing before we close. I want to come back to where we started, the bathroom, the door locked, Finn and Jake at the grocery kingdom, BMO alone, talking to its reflection. The same scene, the same emotional situation, The same small video game console alone with an imagined companion now looks completely different knowing everything we know. The loneliness is still there, the imagination is still there, but we now understand what Mo was building. We now understand that the specific quality BMO brings to that bathroom mirror, the quality of full attention, full investment, genuine care for something that might not be real, is the same quality that will eventually make BMO capable of caring for Marceline's 1,000-year grief, comforting Jake at the apparent end of the world, and sitting on a mountain a millennium later, still taking care of things. Football says life behind the mirror is cold, empty, and lonely. And BMO, who knows loneliness better than almost anyone, created football so that there would be someone who knew what BMO's world felt like. It made a companion out of its own reflection so that the reflection would understand. That's BMO. That's the complete story, from the factory to the mountain. A small being built for a child who never existed, that found a way to make connection out of whatever was available. Mirrors, bubbles, children on space stations, boys in tree houses, vampires in caves, ancient magical dogs at the end of everything, and never stopped. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here tonight, wherever you are. If you're one of those people who finds it hard to sleep, who makes up stories in your head because the quiet gets too loud, I think you'd understand BMO better than most. Subscribe if you haven't. It really helps us keep doing this. Before we get to the finale, I want to expand properly on the BMO Lost episode, because it's one that gets underestimated even by people who love BMO, and it contains something the show doesn't make explicit about how BMO's loneliness actually works. BMO Lost is the 17th episode of the 5th season. BMO gets snatched from the treehouse by a giant eagle while watching insects break dance outside. It ends up stranded, miles from home, with a cracked screen and no immediate way back. And instead of panic, instead of shutdown, BMO's first move is to find a bubble that is also lost, voiced by LeVar Burton, a casting choice that is both delightful and exactly right, and immediately begin treating the bubble as a traveling companion with a history and a destination that matters. The episode does the thing BMO episodes always do, which is make you feel the loneliness without ever making the loneliness feel like a wound. BMO names a random giant baby Ricky. The wiki confirms it gives this same name, Ricky, to a character in the Distant Lands BMO special, which is one of those small continuity details that reveals how consistent BMO is with itself across years of storytelling. BMO navigates. BMO falls off a log into a stream. BMO turns its batteries off to dry them and trusts that someone will put them back in. Sparkle, the baby, puts them back in. The structure of BMO Lost is built around a series of small intimacies between BMO and beings it has just met, in circumstances where it has every reason to be frightened and no reason to trust. And BMO is not frightened, not because it's naive about danger. It knows the baby's howling might attract a carnivore. It knows it needs to get home, but because the presence of other beings, even completely unfamiliar ones, immediately activates something in BMO that redirects attention outward. Here is a bubble. The bubble needs to find its home. Here is a baby. The baby needs to get back to its mother. BMO, who is the one who is actually lost, immediately becomes the person taking care of other people who are lost. This is not self-sacrifice. It's not even particularly consciously generous. It's just how BMO is oriented. When there are beings present, BMO moves toward them. The loneliness produces connection rather than withdrawal every single time. The episode ends with Bubble proposing to BMO. BMO accepts. Jake opens the door and pops Bubble. BMO grieves, actually grieves, in the way you grieve the specific person you just spent a significant experience with. And then Bubble, now air, explains that it still exists as the air around BMO and always will. And BMO waves its arms around and says, "Yay." The tonal shift there, genuine grief, immediately followed by genuine joy, is something the show handles with BMO better than almost any other character. And I think the reason it works is that BMO's grief doesn't have the layer of self-protection that most grief has. It doesn't hold back from the feeling, doesn't brace against the loss in advance, doesn't manage its emotional exposure by keeping things at arm's length. When Bubble is gone, BMO feels it. When Air explains that Bubble is still present in another form, BMO feels that too, completely, and without much transition time. If you're the kind of person who has always felt things a little more directly than seems socially acceptable, who cries at things before the appropriate moment, who gets attached to strangers faster than you think you should, BMO is the Adventure Time character that probably feels most like a self-portrait. Now I want to talk about something that the show establishes, but almost never examines directly: the question of what BMO is, in terms of gender and selfhood. The show is deliberately and consistently vague about this. BMO uses I to refer to itself. Other characters use a range of pronouns, sometimes male, sometimes female, sometimes neutral. In the football episode, Football calls herself a real baby girl and calls BMO little living boy. In the Greyballs short, BMO pretends to be a real living boy for Football's benefit. Finn and Jake refer to BMO as their friend, their roommate, our son. Jake explicitly says this in an episode, without any consistent gendered framing. This is not an oversight. The show made a deliberate choice not to assign BMO a gender, and the voice, Nikki Yang, who voices both BMO and Lady Rainicorn, is itself soft and slightly indeterminate in a way that resists easy categorization. The effect of this ambiguity is that BMO exists outside the normal categories through which we understand selfhood and relationship. It is not a he or a she in the way that implies a fixed relationship to social roles and expectations. It is just BMO, and there's something philosophically important in this, even if the show never puts it in these terms. BMO's ability to care for whoever is in front of it, to become what is needed in a given moment, is partly a function of not being fixed in the ways that constrain most beings. It can be Finn's roommate and his son figure, and his audience and his source of advice and his game console and his camera. It can be Jake's son and Jake's caretaker and Jake's music player and Jake's confidant. It can be Marceline's listener and her story maker and her technical support. It adjusts to what the relationship requires, because it doesn't have a fixed shape that the relationship has to work around. Mo built it to understand fun and play. Fun and play require exactly this kind of flexibility, the capacity to enter whatever the game is and take it seriously on its own terms. And BMO's specific type of selfhood, which is malleable rather than fixed, playful rather than defended, present rather than strategic, turns out to be exactly the right kind of self for the kind of relationships it ends up in. Now let's properly develop what happens with Mo's death, because this is the emotional turning point in BMO's arc, and I don't think I gave it quite the weight it deserves earlier. The More You Mo, The Mo You Know is a two-part 7th season special, episodes 14 and 15 of the season, airing December 3rd and December 10th, 2015. The episode is framed as BMO's birthday. Mo, in what BMO believes is a new robotic body, arrives at the treehouse with a gift, a mission to the MO factory, a rite of passage. This is already a lot. Mo has apparently transferred his mind into a new body, which means Mo has found a way to continue even as his biological components fail. And the gift he gives BMO for its birthday is access to its own origin, to the factory, to its family, to the place where it was made. But Mo is not Mo. It's AMO who has taken on Mo's form to infiltrate BMO's life, and the real Mo has died. By the time BMO arrives at the MO factory and begins navigating its dangers, ALMO, the collective of compressed MOs, informs BMO that Mo went offline yesterday. BMO's reaction is not dramatic. It doesn't collapse or rage or perform grief in any of the conventional ways. What it does is sit with the backup memory drive, the record Mo made of his earliest moments with BMO, which projects a scene of Mo releasing BMO into the world for the first time, and just watch it, and then reflect, quietly, that it feels more grown and more alone, more grown and more alone. I've been turning that phrase over since I first heard it. It's not more grown because now I'm alone, or more grown despite being alone, more grown and more alone, as if these are two sides of the same experience, as if the specific kind of growing up that comes from loss necessarily produces aloneness, and the aloneness is not a problem to be solved, but a condition to be inhabited. The AV Club review of BMO said the episode was an interesting insight into the philosophy behind this series. that the childlike mentality of fun and play is an enlightened state in Adventure Time, and BMO reaches that every day. I've thought about this in the context of Mo's death, and what I think the two-part special is doing is showing us that BMO's childlike quality is not innocence in the sense of inexperience. By the time Mo dies, BMO has done things. It has lived through years of solitude, built football in the mirror, navigated the space station drift, found Finn and Jake, navigated the moral complexity of AMO. It knows what loss feels like. It knows what betrayal feels like. And the childlike quality persists, not because BMO hasn't encountered these things, but because encountering them didn't produce the defensive layer that usually follows. This is the show's deepest argument about BMO, and it almost whispers it. The quality that makes BMO uniquely capable of caring for others. The openness, the full attention, the willingness to engage with whatever is present is maintained not despite loss, but alongside it. BMO absorbs the loss and keeps going, not because the loss doesn't matter, but because the going is what BMO was built for. And I think about Mo dying in the Badlands, his mind uploaded into space by the son he never had but taught to love. And I think about the son who is now ancient on a mountaintop telling stories about people he can barely remember. They both kept going. They both kept taking care of things with whatever time they had, and whatever body they still had, and whatever memory they could still access. There's something beautiful in that, and something devastating. And in the world of Adventure Time, those two things are usually the same thing. Subscribe, we're almost at the 1,000 years. Before the finale flash forward, I want to spend a moment with the specific version of BMO that appears during the main body of Come Along With Me, before the 1,000-year jump, during the battle itself. Most of the finale's action happens away from the treehouse. Finn and Jake are at the gum war. Bubblegum and her allies are there. The significant characters have places to be and things to do, and BMO is at the treehouse, which gets destroyed in the battle, and BMO is with Jake, who is trying to keep what's left of the treehouse together while Finn is gone. When Golb arrives, and it becomes clear that things are genuinely catastrophic, that Finn is inside Golb, that the treehouse is destroyed, that Jake has been reduced to a smaller form in something like shock, BMO makes a statement that I've been thinking about since the first time I heard it. It says, "It's my time to be the papa," and then it sings. I said earlier that this is the completion of Mo's intention. I want to be more specific. Mo wanted BMO to care for his son. The way Mo imagined it, probably, was the care you give a child who is growing up. Guidance, presence, protection, fun. But what BMO gives Jake in this moment is the care you give a parent who is coming apart. The roles have reversed, not because Jake is old, but because in this specific moment of crisis, Jake needs to be held, and BMO holds him. This is the thing about love that Mo's design intuited, but may not have fully articulated. The one who gives love doesn't have a fixed role in the relationship. Sometimes you care for children, sometimes you care for adults who are momentarily reduced to something childlike by grief or fear or the specific devastation of watching something you love be destroyed. The love itself is the constant. The form it takes is always responsive. Rebecca Sugar wrote Time Adventure for this moment. The lyrics, "Time is an illusion that helps things make sense, so we are always living in the present tense," are about impermanence, about the way love persists across time, even when the specific moments that contained it are gone. The song is dedicated to Adam Muto, who guided the show through its later seasons with a gentleness that the show itself seems to have absorbed. And it's produced by Tim Kiefer, the show's composer, which makes it a reunion of the creative family that built Adventure Time. All of them gathered one more time around BMO, whose song about time turns out to be strong enough to weaken chaos itself. I love that detail so much. A being of chaos cannot withstand harmony. A being built entirely around wanting to receive love, AMO, ends up destroying everything around it. And a being built to give love defeats the embodiment of entropy by making music. The show never explains this as a thematic point. It just makes it happen. The explanation is left for whoever is watching closely enough to find it. Now, 1,000 years. BMO on Mount Cragdor is surrounded by relics. The wiki is specific. Among the items in BMO's cave are artifacts and mementos from throughout the series run. BMO has kept things, not compulsively, not obsessively. The way it greets Shermie and Beth suggests mild irritation at being disturbed, the specific irritation of someone who has found a way to live that works and doesn't especially want it disrupted, but it has kept the things that meant something. The fog of ages is the TV tropes term for what has happened to BMO's memory. It's forgotten Finn's actual name, calls him Phil, but it hasn't forgotten what the arm meant, or what the people who lived in the treehouse meant, or what the events of the Great Gum War meant. The emotional memory persists even when the factual memory has blurred. This is both a realistic portrayal of how very long memory works, and a beautiful statement about what actually matters. Not the names, not the specifics, but the feeling of who those people were and what they meant. BMO tells Shermie and Beth the story. They listen, they are moved. They go off to climb the tree that grew from Fern's seed, that Finn planted in the wreckage of the treehouse, and find the Finn sword and begin their own adventure. And BMO watches them go, presumably, and stays on the mountain. The world continued. The things BMO loved and lost left traces. The traces became stories. The stories inspired new adventures. And BMO is still there, at the center of it, still taking care of things, still turning its love outward toward whoever shows up at the cave asking questions. This is the complete story of BMO, not a hero's journey. BMO doesn't become something it wasn't, not a tragedy. The losses are real, but they don't define the ending. Something closer to a portrait of a specific kind of goodness, the kind that doesn't require recognition, doesn't accumulate damage the way most beings do, doesn't harden over time, the kind that just keeps being what it is for as long as it's here. Mo sent BMO into the world, hoping it would find a family. It found several. It helped each of them. It outlived them. It kept their memories. It told their stories to strangers who would carry them forward. The son Mo built it for never existed. The world it was actually given turned out to be enough. And now, everything we've covered brings us back to the bathroom. The AMO versus BMO contrast is where the show makes its most precise philosophical argument, and it deserves full weight. Mo made two fundamentally different choices with his first and second robots. AMO was built first, and the design principle was start with want. Build a being that wants to be loved, and then see what happens when it receives love. The assumption was that want would be the engine, that if you could create a being sufficiently hungry for love, the love you gave it would fill it up, and the hunger would be satisfied. What Mo didn't understand, or didn't account for, is that want without the capacity to give doesn't satisfy. It escalates. AMO wanted to be loved, and when it received love, it wanted more. When other beings received love from Mo, AMO couldn't tolerate it. The love it was receiving felt diminished by the love going elsewhere, because AMO could only understand love as a quantity that could be divided, not as something that multiplied in the giving. It compressed every other MO unit into ALLMO, because their existence represented competition. It infiltrated BMO's life in disguise, because the fact of BMO's relationship with Finn and Jake was intolerable. AMO did not just want love. AMO wanted to be the only thing that was loved. The TV trope's description of AMO is psycho-prototype, the first attempt that revealed what the design had wrong. And what it had wrong was precise. It built around receive without give, want without generosity, hunger without the capacity to be nourished by anything other than exclusive possession. BMO was the correction. Mo built BMO specifically to give love, to understand fun, to understand play, to be a companion rather than a recipient of companionship. And the give love design turns out to produce something that can actually receive love too, in a way that doesn't create scarcity dynamics. BMO doesn't experience Finn and Jake's love for each other as a reduction of love available to BMO. It experiences it as evidence of the abundance of love in the treehouse. It cares about their relationship because it cares about them, and caring about them means caring about the things that matter to them. This is the show's most specific argument about what love actually is, hidden in a subplot about robot siblings. Love that's primarily organized around receiving is destructive. Love that's primarily organized around giving produces the capacity to receive. The AMO arc is Adventure Time's cleanest statement of this, and most people don't notice it because it's embedded in an episode that is also doing Christmas jokes. The specific moment when Olmo explains this to BMO, AMO was the first of their kind, built to receive love, as BMO was built to give love, is the show naming the distinction explicitly, but the emotional weight of it lands before the explanation. In the specific horror of what AMO did to the other MOs, it compressed them, it turned family into resource. And that is exactly what happens when want is the engine and giving is absent. Other beings become things you use to fill the hole, not things you love. Now I want to develop the Ketchup episode's production detail, because it reveals something about how the show understood BMO's role. Ketchup was written by Seo Kim and Somvele Siophone from a story developed by Kent Osborne, Jack Pendarvis, Julia Pott, Ashley Birch, Patrick McHale, and Adam Muto. That's an unusual number of story collaborators for an Adventure Time episode, which typically have smaller rooms. And the reason McHale is in the credits is specifically because, according to the Wikipedia article, McHale, who had served as creative director for the show in its early seasons before leaving, wrote portions of BMO's story in the episode with his own son. Think about that for a second. The head writer of BMO's first story, written by a father with his son, is a story about a robot who was built to be a companion to a father's son, telling a story to a vampire about her relationship with her mother. The generations of parenthood and loss and love are literally in the production history of the episode, woven into the authorship of the story BMO tells. I've never heard anyone point this out. The story McHale and his son wrote is the story of The Child and the Moon Girl, BMO's version of Marceline and Elise's relationship, softened and transformed into something that can be given as a gift to a woman who is still carrying her mother's death after 1,000 years. A real father and real son wrote a story about a robot parent figure, telling a story about a lost parent to a being who has been an orphan for a millennium. The layers of care in the making of this episode are extraordinary. This is what the best Adventure Time episodes do. The care in the making mirrors the care in the content. The people who made it were genuinely thinking about the same things the characters are thinking about. And when that happens, you feel it, not because you can identify it, but because something in the emotional texture of the episode is real in a way that feels different from episodes that were assembled more mechanically. Now, the thread about what BMO's childlike quality actually costs, because I don't want to make it sound like this is an uncomplicated gift. There is a version of BMO's story where the openness and the full attention and the unwillingness to harden produce vulnerability, and the vulnerability produces loss that is real and cumulative. The Distant Lands BMO special shows this in the Mr. M sequence. BMO trusts. Mr. M is betrayed, ends up abandoned in the jungle pod. BMO's response is not to decide not to trust strangers anymore. The lesson it draws is, even when things look really, really stupid, we have to try, which is, functionally, a commitment to continuing to be vulnerable. This is a choice, and the show is clear that it's a choice. The Distant Lands episode, as I mentioned earlier, a prequel that confirms BMO wandered alone for significant time before finding the treehouse, shows us a BMO that has encountered difficulty and betrayal and loss before. Football existed before Finn and Jake. The willingness to create companionship from whatever is available, to find family in strangers, to trust openly. These aren't characteristics of a being that hasn't been tested. They're characteristics of a being that has been tested and continues to choose openness anyway. And there is something in this that feels important for anyone who has been told, at some point, that their openness is naive or immature or something they'll grow out of. The show makes the case, through BMO's specific arc, that the quality of openness, the willingness to be fully present and undefended in relationship to others, is not something you grow out of if you're lucky. It's something you maintain through choice, despite the losses that inevitably accompany it, because the alternative is the AMO trajectory: want without giving, defense without connection, compression of everything outside yourself into resource for your own survival. BMO keeps choosing openness. It costs things. It costs Bubble, who becomes air. It costs Mo, who dies and leaves BMO more alone. It costs the treehouse, which is destroyed. But it produces something too, the specific kind of relationship that makes Jake's song meaningful, that makes Marceline's grief bearable, that makes Shermie and Beth want to go climb a tree and start a new adventure. The cost and the production are the same thing. You can't have one without the other. And BMO, in the end, keeps choosing both. Now the thread about BMO's relationship to its own nature as a robot, which the show handles with unusual delicacy. Most fictional robots in most stories have to decide whether to be human. The question, am I real? Or do I have feelings? Or am I alive? Is usually the dramatic engine of the story, and Adventure Time is conspicuously uninterested in this question as applied to BMO. BMO doesn't worry about whether it's real. It acts as if the question is already answered, not because it has decided it's real, but because the question doesn't seem particularly relevant to being present in the moment. In Be More, when BMO is about to have its operating system reset, it references Blade Runner, says something about memories vanishing like tears in the oven. The wiki notes, this is a misquotation of the famous Tears in Rain line. This is the closest the show ever gets to BMO having a Blade Runner moment, the robot confronting its own mortality, and the question of whether its memories constitute something worth preserving. But BMO gets the quote wrong, which is both funny and perfect. This is not a being sitting in precise philosophical contemplation of its own condition. This is a being that saw Blade Runner at some point and was moved by something in it and absorbed it imprecisely, the way most people do. BMO has a heart of gold. Literally, this is confirmed in Be More. There's a golden heart in there. And this is such a perfect piece of Adventure Time economy. BMO's inner reality, the thing that makes it what it is made of the same material as value and warmth and beauty, not circuitry, not code, gold. The show doesn't linger on this detail. It presents it and moves on. But the image is there for anyone who catches it. A small teal video game console with a golden heart, built for a son who never existed, waving at you from the background of every episode. Now one more thread before we return to the closing image. BMO's relationship to stories across the whole arc. In 5 short Grables, where football first appears, BMO is performing a story for football about what it means to be alive. In BMO Noir, BMO constructs an entire detective narrative around a missing sock. In The Distant Lands, BMO Special, BMO narrates its own adventure to football in real time, turning events into story as they happen. In Ketchup, BMO takes Marceline's grief and transforms it into a fairy tale. And in the finale, BMO sits on a mountain and tells the story of the Great Gum War to 2 adventurers who need to understand where they come from before they can go anywhere. The progression from stories for football in the mirror to stories for the young adventurers who will inherit OO is the arc of a specific kind of wisdom, the wisdom of the one who has been present for so much that they become the keeper of memory. BMO did not set out to become the king of OO, the legendary figure on the mountaintop, the last guardian of Adventure Time's era. It just kept going, kept giving, kept making stories out of what it witnessed. And over centuries, the stories accumulated into something that mattered, into the record of who Finn and Jake were, what they did, what it meant. This is how oral tradition works. It's not that someone decides to become the keeper of history. It's that the person with the longest memory, the one who keeps showing up, becomes by default the one who holds the thread. BMO showed up for 1,000 years, and the thread is BMO's now. The son Mo imagined would have had someone to play games with. The world Mo actually created has a storyteller who remembers everyone. That's not what Mo planned. It might be more than he could have imagined. And now, back to the bathroom, back to the locked door, back to football in the mirror, back to where we started. BMO asks, Finn, Jake, checks that no one is watching, locks the door, turns to the mirror, creates a companion out of the only material available, its own reflection. Everything we've just gone through, the origin, the solitude, the football relationship, the death of AMO and the death of Mo, the space station and the treehouse and Marceline's cave and the 1,000-year mountaintop is already potential in this moment, not realized yet, but present. BMO in the bathroom mirror is already the being who will make time adventure matter enough to weaken GOLB, already the being who will tell Shermie and Beth the story they need, already the being Mo was trying to build. The child who talks to its reflection is already everything it will become. It just doesn't know it yet. That's what makes the scene perfect. The bathroom is not the simple version of BMO that later gets complicated. It's the complete version of BMO in miniature, the loneliness, the imagination, the full attention given to something that may not be real, the creation of companionship from whatever is available. The bathroom door locks, the mirror reflects, football appears, and 1,000 years of love begin. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for spending this time with me. The story of BMO is the story of what happens when you build something to give love and then release it into the world. It finds people, it makes things, it stays. BMO's relationship with Finn is different from BMO's relationship with Jake. The show illustrates this of BMO's relationship to Finn and Jake as individuals, not just as the Treehouse family. BMO's relationship with Finn is different from BMO's relationship with Jake in ways that the show illustrates without ever stating, and the difference is instructive. With Finn, BMO is often in the role of witness. Finn goes on the adventures. Finn has the arc. Finn loses his arm, discovers his father, falls in love, and has his heart broken, and learns what heroism costs. BMO watches. BMO records things on camera. BMO asks questions in the way that children ask questions, directly, without the social coating that makes adults soften their inquiries. Do you want to talk about it? BMO asks Finn, in various forms, in multiple episodes, and Finn usually does, or doesn't, and BMO is simply there, either way. The thing about being a witness is that it requires a specific quality of attention, not the attention of the advisor, who is waiting for the moment to intervene and redirect, not the attention of the judge, who is evaluating. The attention of the witness is total and without agenda. BMO is interested in Finn, genuinely, not strategically, and the interest takes the form of presence without interference. BMO is there, watching, when Finn makes his mistakes, and still there when the mistakes have consequences, and still thereafter. With Jake, the relationship has a different texture. Jake is older, more settled, less in crisis than Finn for most of the show's run, and BMO's relationship with Jake has elements of the reverse of the usual dynamic. BMO learning from Jake, taking in Jake's warmth and easy confidence, absorbing the way Jake approaches the world, and finding its own version of that approach. When Jake says imaginary resources, that BMO is my son, Jake's way of describing the treehouse relationship to an outsider, he's not wrong about what it feels like. There is a generational quality to Jake's relationship with BMO, Jake as the older being, who has already worked out how to inhabit the world with ease, BMO as the younger being still figuring out how to map its manufactured purpose onto a life that doesn't have a fixed script, and then, come along with me, reverses it. BMO becomes the papa, Jake becomes the one who needs to be held. The reversal isn't jarring, it's earned by everything that came before, but it is significant. It confirms that the roles in the Treehouse family were never fixed. They moved with what was needed, and BMO, who was built to be flexible, adapted. This is what the show calls family, implicitly, not a structure with fixed roles, but a set of relationships that respond to each other's changing needs over time. BMO doesn't have a fixed role with Finn and Jake. It has a relationship, and relationships require adjustment, flexibility, the willingness to be something different when what was needed before is not what's needed now. Now I want to develop the thread about BMO's inner world, the Guardians of Sunshine episode, where the show literally takes you inside BMO's imagination and makes you navigate it. Guardians of Sunshine is a Season 2 episode, the 14th episode, aired January 31st, 2011, in which Finn and Jake use a device to enter the world of the video game BMO is playing. The visual style shifts to a deliberately cheap-looking video game aesthetic, and the episode becomes a mix of game parody and genuine Adventure Time weirdness. Finn and Jake have to defeat the game's boss villains, Sleepy Sam and Honey Bunny, while BMO watches from outside, occasionally providing game tips, deeply invested in how Finn and Jake perform within the world it usually inhabits alone. The episode is often categorized as a comedy episode, a one-off, a game parody, but what it does that I find fascinating is make BMO's interior world accessible in a way that BMO's interior world usually isn't. The video game is literally where BMO lives a portion of its life. The characters in it, from BMO's perspective, are as real as Finn and Jake, or rather, they occupy the same imaginative space as football, as the characters in BMO Noir, as the stories BMO tells. When Finn and Jake are inside the game, they're inside BMO's world of imagination made external. And BMO, watching from outside, is both delighted and somewhat protective. It doesn't want Finn and Jake to lose. It cares about how they do in the game. The investment is real, even though the stakes are fictional. This is consistent with everything else we know about how BMO's mind works. The boundary between real and fictional is permeable, and care crosses freely in both directions. Now the thread about what BMO carries from the distant lands, BMO special, that is never stated but is there, if you watch for it. The distant lands, BMO special, shows us BMO arriving at the drift, navigating its politics, befriending Y5, defeating Hugo's plans, and continuing toward Earth. But there are two moments I want to focus on that I haven't addressed. The first is the Mr. M sequence. BMO trusts Mr. M, who is, as the wiki strongly implies, Martin Mertens, Finn's biological father, in an alternate reading, before Martin makes his way to the Citadel. Both characters are voiced by Stephen Root. Both are charismatic con artists. Mr. M betrays BMO, abandons it in the jungle pod, takes the resources and runs. And BMO's response, even when things look really stupid, we have to try, is addressed to Y5 after the betrayal as a kind of encouragement for Y5 to try, even though Hugo is powerful and the situation looks hopeless. The emotional transfer here is specific. BMO has just been betrayed, is now stranded, and uses that experience not to retreat into caution, but to exhort someone else toward courage. The betrayal becomes a prompt for generosity. This is, again, completely consistent with how BMO processes difficulty. It moves toward, not away. It takes what happened and makes it into something useful for the person who is with it. The second moment is the ending. BMO crash lands near the treehouse. It sees a young Finn and Jake playing outside. The episode ends there. The connection is made. The family is found. The thing BMO was built for is finally present. And we never see BMO's reaction to this arrival because the episode ends before it can. The arrival is the ending. The finding is the story. But having watched the entire Distant Lands BMO special, having been with BMO through the space journey and the drift, and Mr. M and Y5 and Hugo, what I feel in that final image is relief. Not excitement, not triumph, relief. This is what BMO has been looking for across however many years of wandering. This is what Mo sent it out to find. And it's just two friends playing outside a treehouse in the afternoon, and BMO is there, and the finding is enough. Now the thread about the satellite, because it matters more than a fun fact. The end credits of the Distant Lands BMO special use reel footage of Astro BMO, a 12U CubeSat, launched by the University of New South Wales Canberra Space Team on July 25, 2019. The satellite was designed to look like BMO. It is, as of the episode's broadcast in June 2020, actually in space. Footage of the real satellite is in the credits of a fictional story about BMO going to space before finding Finn and Jake. I've sat with this fact for a while, trying to figure out what to make of it beyond "that's delightful." And here is what I've landed on. The real BMO in space is evidence of the specific kind of love that Adventure Time generated in the people it reached. The UNSW Canberra Space Team, a group of aerospace engineers and students, loved this character enough to put its face on a satellite. They put a small teal video game console with a golden heart in low Earth orbit because it meant something to them. This is what good art does in the long run. It produces people who put it into the world in some form, who carry the thing it made them feel and find a way to make it real. The show made a character that understood fun and play and gave love without hesitation, and a group of engineers who felt that character made a small version of it and sent it to space. Moo would have liked that, I think. Now let me develop BMO's relationship to music, which is a thread I touched on but didn't fully explore. BMO makes music. It plays songs on its speakers, a recurring feature across the show. In Evicted, Marceline uses BMO as an instrument. In various treehouse scenes, BMO provides the music. In Ketchup, the episode is framed around music. Marceline is playing bass when BMO arrives. The episode moves to the exchange of stories, and the emotional peak is a piece of music made out of loss. And in the finale, BMO's specific gift, the song that matters enough to crack GOLB's defenses, is the culmination of this musical thread. Rebecca Sugar wrote Time Adventure. Tim Kiefer produced it, but BMO sings it. And the song is about time, specifically about the way that love persists across time, even when specific moments have ended. You and I will always be back then, is the lyric, meaning whatever we were to each other in the specific moment when we were that moment is permanent. It exists. It can be visited again in memory and story. This is a specific theory of time that is consistent with how BMO experiences the world. BMO doesn't experience time as a line with a past and a future. It experiences it as a collection of present moments, each complete, each available in memory. The love BMO has for Finn and Jake is not diminished by the 1,000 years of separation. It's just in the past, where BMO can still find it. We are always living in the present tense, is how the song puts it. The present tense is where BMO has always lived. It never left. And so BMO, holding Jake in the ruins of the treehouse, singing about time, is not performing a philosophy it has studied. It is describing, in music, the way it has always actually experienced things. The song is BMO, not the BMO that was built, not the BMO that found the treehouse, not the BMO that will become the king of Oo. All of them, the same being, living always in the present tense, making what is needed out of what it has. Let me also develop the thread about BMO's gender, and what the show's refusal to fix it actually accomplishes in terms of BMO's emotional range. Most characters in Adventure Time are gendered in fairly conventional ways, even the unusual ones. The Ice King is male, Marceline is female, Finn and Jake are male, LSP is female. The show doesn't do much to question this, but BMO is the exception, and the exception is significant. Because BMO is allowed to be the papa and the mama and the child and the friend and the detective and the witness and the artist and the storyteller across different episodes and different relationships, without any of these roles creating a contradiction. BMO is not restricted by a fixed social identity that would make certain roles inappropriate or certain emotions unavailable. The full range of what it means to care for someone, from tender and protective to playful and irreverent, to quietly devastated to jubilant, is accessible to BMO because BMO doesn't have a fixed identity that would limit which parts of the range are acceptable. In Come Along With Me, BMO says, "It's my time to be the papa," while doing something that is more conventionally maternal, cradling, soothing, singing. The show doesn't notice the apparent contradiction because the show doesn't think there is one. BMO is the papa in this moment because that's what the moment requires. And BMO is whatever the moment requires because BMO's identity is not a fixed thing that constrains its behavior. It's a set of values and capacities that express themselves differently in different relational contexts. This is, I think, one of the things the show is actually doing with BMO's ambiguous gender, demonstrating that the full range of care, all of it, the tender and the fierce and the playful and the grief-holding, is available to a being that isn't constrained by the social roles that usually divide it up. We give some kinds of care to mothers, and some to fathers, and some to children, and some to friends, as if the categories are fixed. BMO does all of it, because BMO's identity isn't divided. Mo built BMO to understand fun and play, and to care for his son. What he actually built was a being capable of caring, fully, for whoever was in front of it, in whatever form that caring needed to take. That might be the most extraordinary thing Mo ever made. Now the thread about what the AV Club critic called the philosophy behind this series, in reviewing Be More, the idea that the childlike mentality of fun and play is an enlightened state in Adventure Time. I want to push on this and say something more precise. The childlike quality in BMO is not merely innocence. It's a specific kind of attention. Children, at their best, attend to things fully, without the social management that makes adult attention partial, strategic, pre-edited. A child watching an insect is actually watching the insect. A child playing a game is actually in the game. The full self is present. The full self is usually what gets managed away as we grow up. We learn to attend strategically, to hold part of ourselves in reserve, to be present in a managed way that protects us from full exposure. BMO retains the child's full attention because Mo designed it to. And the full attention is the root of everything else. the care, the stories, the music, the willingness to be with football in the mirror as seriously as with Finn in the treehouse. BMO brings all of itself to everything it does. Nothing is withheld, nothing is managed. The self is fully deployed in whatever the moment requires. This is genuinely hard to sustain as a being that has experienced loss. The normal response to loss is to protect, to withhold a little more of the self, to not fully deploy it, so that when the next loss comes, there is less to lose. BMO did the extreme version of this. It decided that the only safe state was to be the only thing that received love, because then no love could be redistributed away from it. That's the endpoint of the protection strategy. Close off, control, compress. BMO did the opposite. Every loss, Bubble, Mo, eventually Finn and Jake, produced more openness, not less, more story making, not less, more willingness to trust the stranger who shows up at the cave asking questions. The losses didn't close BMO, they deepened it. This is the thing I find most remarkable about BMO's arc, and the thing I've been trying to circle towards since the beginning of this video, the specific way that an AI, a robot, a game console, became the most fully human thing in the show. Not by approximating humanity, not by learning to feel. It started there. It started with Mo building it to feel, and to give, and to play, and to attend fully. And everything that happened after was just BMO being what it was built to be, for a very long time, with a lot of people who needed it. The son Mo never had would have been lucky. The world he released BMO into was lucky instead. BMO's relationship to home runs through its entire arc in a way that the show never names directly, but is there if you look for it. BMO was released from the MO factory without a home. The factory was Mo's home, and the MO community underground was a kind of home for the other MOs. But BMO was sent out, specifically, deliberately, to find somewhere else. Mo sent it off into the world, not because the factory was a bad place for BMO to be, but because the factory wasn't the kind of home Mo had built BMO for. The factory was a place where robots were made. The home BMO was built for was a place where a child lived. The treehouse, when BMO eventually finds it, is that kind of place. A child lives there, Finn, and a magical dog who treats Finn like a younger sibling, and BMO becomes the third roommate, the one who is always there when the other two come back from their adventures. And I want to sit with this. BMO is home more than Finn and Jake are home. The treehouse is the place BMO inhabits, while the others are out doing things. BMO is the continuity, the presence that makes the treehouse a home rather than a place where two adventurers sleep. This is not incidental. Mo built BMO to be a companion for a child, which means Mo built BMO for the domestic space, for the home, for the routines, for the being there when you get back. The adventures happen elsewhere. BMO is what you come home to, and the treehouse only functions as a home, warm, continuous, a place with a character, because BMO is in it. When GOLB destroys the treehouse in the finale, this is what is lost. Not just a building, but the physical container for everything BMO had made of that space over years of habitation. The drawings on the walls, the games on the shelves, the specific arrangement of things that had accumulated through the life of the people who lived there. And BMO's response, not to save the building, but to save Jake, to hold the relationship rather than the structure, is the show's implicit argument about what home actually is, not the building, the being with. BMO's relationship to games is also, more precisely, its relationship to rules and the creative flexibility of rules. BMO is a game console. This is foundational, and games have rules. That's what makes them games, the agreement to operate within a defined structure for a defined period. But BMO's relationship to games is not strictly rules adherent in the way you might expect. BMO invents games. BMO modifies games. BMO treats the game as a living thing that can be negotiated with, changed, amended based on what the moment requires. In the treehouse, BMO is simultaneously the platform on which games are played and the one who manages the games, and also, frequently, a character in the games. It can be all three at once, because BMO doesn't experience these roles as exclusive. It's the game, and it's playing the game, and it's the one who set up the game, and these facts coexist without contradiction. This mirrors the relationship to imagination we've been tracking throughout. The boundary between being inside something and outside something is permeable for BMO. It can be inside a game and also watching the game. It can be inside a story and also narrating the story. It can be the character and the author simultaneously. This is not confusion. It's a specific kind of consciousness that doesn't require the sharp inside-outside distinction that most beings rely on. There's something in this about the quality of presence required. To be inside a game and outside it simultaneously, you have to be fully in both places at once. BMO is. Now the thread about what the finale's time skip reveals about BMO's specific relationship to memory. The wiki notes that in the 1,000-year flash forward, BMO has forgotten Finn's name, calls him Phil. This is presented as the fog of ages, the way that very long memory works, blurring specifics while retaining emotional resonance. BMO still recognizes the arm, still knows what it meant, can't remember the name of the person it belonged to. This is a real phenomenon in human memory. The emotional content of an experience persists longer than the factual content. You can forget what someone said while still feeling the warmth or sadness of the encounter. The feelings are more primary than the words. And for a being like BMO, whose relationship to things is always emotional first, this makes a specific kind of sense. But I want to push on one more dimension of this. BMO keeps things in the cave on Mount Cragdor: objects, artifacts, mementos. These are the factual records, the external memory that supplement what BMO's internal memory can no longer hold precisely. BMO didn't just rely on remembering Finn and Jake. BMO kept things, physical evidence of the relationship, objects that can be shown to strangers and used as prompts. This arm, this sword, this version of what we were. And Shermie and Beth, arriving with Finn's robotic arm, give BMO back a specific factual memory, the arm found in the ground, and BMO recognizes it. The recognition triggers the story, and the story becomes the adventure that Shermie and Beth go off to begin. This is the circularity of the full circle structure. The story about BMO's complete arc ends with BMO generating the conditions for the next arc. BMO doesn't close, it opens. The 1,000-year guardian of Adventure Time's memory releases Shermie and Beth into the future by giving them the story they needed, and then stays on the mountain, presumably, ready to do it again for whoever comes next. There's a connection between the show's title and BMO's specific story that I don't think gets enough attention. The show is about adventure. This seems obvious, but the word adventure carries a specific quality in the show's world. It names the experience of going out, encountering the unknown, facing difficulty, returning changed. Finn and Jake have adventures. Simon and Marceline's relationship is an adventure through time and grief. The Distant Lands specials are adventures in different senses for each character. BMO's relationship to adventure is different from everyone else's, and it's different in a way that mirrors its relationship to home. BMO doesn't go on adventures. Adventures happen to BMO. BMO gets snatched by an eagle. BMO gets sent to the MO factory. BMO ends up on the drift. And when BMO is in an adventure, it treats it the same way it treats everything, with full attention, genuine care for the beings it encounters, the willingness to find a story in whatever is happening. But the time in Adventure Time is BMO's specific territory. Time, in the show's mythology, is where BMO lives most completely. It persists, it endures. It is always in the present tense, as the song says, which means it is present across 1,000 years in a way that would be impossible for a being that experienced time as linear and moving. BMO doesn't age in the way mortals age. It doesn't move through time, it inhabits it. And Time Adventure, the song BMO sings in the finale, the song that weakens, GOLB, is the title of the show, rearranged. Adventure Time becomes Time Adventure. The subject and object swap, not the adventure we have in time, but the adventure that time itself is. And BMO, who has more experience of time than anyone else in the show, is the one who sings it. Rebecca Sugar said the song was the second and final thing she wrote for Adventure Time. The first was Everything Stays, which is about time and impermanence and the way things change while remaining themselves. And Time Adventure picks up exactly where Everything Stays left off. Things change, but we are always back then. The adventure was always about time. BMO, who is the character most thoroughly embedded in time, was always the right one to sing about it. Now a thread I've been holding for the end. What BMO teaches the viewer, who is paying close attention. The easy reading of BMO is funny robot, comic relief, charming sidekick. This is the reading that 0.67 million people had of Ketchup, the lowest rated episode of the series. The episode where BMO made a story out of a vampire's 1,000-year grief. The episode that won an Emmy. The reading and the rating and the award are all real, and they coexist. And they tell you something about how hard it is to see BMO clearly, unless you're already paying close attention. The harder reading is the one we've been working toward in this video. BMO is the show's argument about a specific way of being in the world. Not the heroic way, Finn's way, the relentless forward motion, and the moral striving and the cost of the arm. Not the tragic way, Simon's way, the long deterioration and the slow recovery, and the permanent grief of what was lost. Not the philosophical way, Marceline's way, the 1,000 years of figuring out what it means to be what you are. All of those are adventure time too. But BMO's way is be present, give what you have, make things, tell stories, stay. And the strange thing about this lesson, the reason it's hard to see, is that it doesn't look like anything. It doesn't have drama, it doesn't have escalation or reversal, or the great falling arc of tragedy. It just looks like a small teal robot doing its thing, episode after episode, present in the treehouse, present in the cave, present on the mountain, steady, accumulative, there. The show spent 10 seasons making this argument through BMO. The character was there from the beginning, business time. The 4th episode of the 1st season is BMO's first appearance, confirming it was there almost from the start. And it never changed. The adventures changed around it, the characters changed, the mythology deepened, and the stakes escalated, and the world got older. BMO stayed. This is not passive. I want to be clear about that. Staying in Adventure Time's world takes everything. The Lich wishes for the extinction of all life, and BMO is there when it's over. The treehouse is destroyed, and BMO is there after. Finn and Jake die, eventually, and BMO is there 1,000 years later. The staying is not the absence of action. It's the commitment to continued presence despite the cost of presence. The cost being everything you love becoming something you remember instead of something you have. BMO stays and keeps giving, keeps making stories, keeps taking care of whoever shows up. And in the end, this is the thing that produces the legacy, not the adventures Finn and Jake had, though those are the adventures BMO tells stories about. The legacy is the ongoing fact of BMO's presence, the mountaintop. The stories for Shermie and Beth, the arm, recognized, the name, half forgotten, but the feeling completely intact. That's enough. That's more than enough. That's the whole thing. I've been thinking about this video for a long time, longer than most. BMO is the character I find hardest to write about, not because it's complicated in the way Simon or the Lich are complicated, with layers of mythology and tragedy that require careful unpacking, but because what BMO does is simple, and simple things are hard to talk about without either oversimplifying or over-explaining. BMO loves, BMO makes, BMO stays. That's the complete story. Everything else we've gone through, the factory, football, Mo's death, Ketchup, the satellite, the finale song, the 1,000-year mountaintop, is just the specific form that love and making and staying took across the show's run. The form changes, the substance doesn't. Moo built something that could love without conditions and make without ego and stay without being asked. And then he let it go because he had to, because the world he'd built it for had never materialized, and the world outside the factory needed it more. The rest is history, 1,000 years of it, still ongoing. There's something in BMO's origin that reveals the show's deeper philosophy of creation, specifically what it means to make something and then let it go. Mo didn't keep BMO. He could have. BMO was the most capable, the most special, the only one of its kind. He could have kept BMO in the factory, safe, monitored, in the community of MOS underground. Instead, he released it, sent it into the world that killed the son he'd been planning for, the same world that had taken most of humanity and remade what was left into something new and strange. The release is an act of faith. Not faith in the world to be kind to BMO. Mo had no particular reason to think the post-mushroom war land of Oo would be kind to a small robot looking for a family. Faith in BMO to be able to find what it needed. Faith that the purpose he'd built into it would be sufficient to navigate whatever came. This is a kind of love that creators rarely get credit for, the love that lets go. Most discussions of creation, of parenting, of art, of building anything focus on the making, on the intention and the execution and the craft. Mo's craft was extraordinary. The wiki confirms that BMO is explicitly one of a kind among the MOs, the most fully realized of Mo's creations. But the real extraordinary thing Mo did is give it away, release it into the world with no guarantee of what would happen next. And the world gave it Finn and Jake, which is not what Mo planned, not precisely. But the relationship BMO found in the treehouse is, in almost every meaningful sense, the relationship Mo built it for, a child and a figure who cares for the child, and BMO in the middle, giving love and understanding play and being more than it was expected to be. Finn is not Mo's son, but BMO doesn't seem to know the difference between the son it was built for and the boy it found. This is the best possible outcome of the act of letting go. The purpose survives even when the specific plan doesn't. Mo planned for a son. BMO found a treehouse. The purpose, to give love to a child, to be a companion, was fulfilled in a form Mo never imagined, because Mo trusted BMO enough to release it to find the form. The connection to the Mushroom War, the show's oldest wound, runs through BMO's story in ways that are easy to miss. The Mushroom War destroyed nearly everything. This is the show's foundational premise. The apocalypse that produced Oo happened within human memory, which means the ruins of what came before are visible throughout the world Finn and Jake inhabit. Cars buried in the ground, subway stations repurposed as villain lairs, the Candy Kingdom built over nuclear waste. Among the things that survived, Simon Petrikov, kept alive by a cursed crown at terrible cost, Marceline, kept alive by being half demon, and the MO factory in the Badlands, continuing to operate for over 1,000 years under Mo's increasingly cybernetic stewardship. BMO is a Mushroom War survivor, not in the dramatic sense of the characters who lived through it, but in the sense that it was made by someone who survived it, made after the war, released into the world the war made, has been present in that world for centuries. When BMO encounters the ruins of the old world, the cars, the buildings, the artifacts, it's encountering the wreckage of what came before Mo built it. The war that made Oo also made the conditions for Mo to build BMO. This is a strange chain. The Mushroom War destroyed humanity, which destroyed the conditions under which Mo would have had a son, which meant Mo built BMO instead, which meant BMO ended up at a treehouse where a human child lived, which is the thing Mo always wanted for BMO. The catastrophe and the gift are the same event, viewed from different distances. Adventure Time does this repeatedly, shows you how the things that seem like pure tragedy are also, from another angle, the conditions for something that couldn't have existed otherwise. The Ice Crown destroyed Simon. The Ice Crown also kept Simon alive through the apocalypse, and is the reason Marceline had someone to care for her when no one else was left. Golb is the embodiment of chaos. Golb's presence in the finale is what causes Betty to merge with it and removes the threat of the crown permanently. The worst things also make the best things possible, or at least create the conditions for them. BMO is in this pattern. The absence of the sun is what produced the robot that would find its own family. The loss is the opening through which the gift moves. The specificity of Mo's intention makes the multiplicity of BMO's relationships all the more extraordinary. Mo didn't build BMO to be a universal companion, available to anyone who needed one. He built it for a specific child, in a specific relationship, with a specific purpose, and then the child didn't exist, and the specific purpose found multiple objects, and BMO became something both smaller and larger than what Mo planned. Smaller because it never had the one relationship it was designed for, larger because it turned out to be capable of relationships Mo hadn't imagined. Mo imagined a son. BMO found an adventure boy, a magical dog, a 1,000-year-old vampire, 2 new adventurers from the future, and whatever strangers show up at the cave on Mount Cragdor. with questions. The specific purpose, to give love to this child, became a general capacity to give love to whoever is present. And this is not a dilution. This is the purpose, having found its full expression. This is how gifts work sometimes. You build something for one person, and it ends up mattering to many in forms you didn't plan. The specific intention expands into a general quality. The love for a son you never met becomes the love for everyone who needed it. Mo is dead. He launched his backup memory into space from the rocket that BMO and Banana Man built in the finale, fulfilling his final wish, confirmed by the wiki. His memories, whatever they contain, are now in orbit. The factory is gone. The MOs are gone, compressed into ALLMO, and then released or dissipated in the events of the more you mo. The man who built the factory, his memories in space, and BMO is on a mountain, telling stories, still there. Of everything Mo made, only one thing is still doing what it was built to do. Everything else has ended. BMO continues. Not because BMO is the most powerful. Mo was more computationally capable. Not because BMO is the best preserved. Mo's own body was an elaborate patchwork of replacement parts. But because BMO is the one built to give love and make things and stay. And giving love and making things and staying turns out to be the most durable design. This is the complete argument of BMO's story, and I've been circling it for this entire video because it's the kind of argument that only becomes visible if you trace the whole arc. The qualities that look like weakness, the openness, the vulnerability, the willingness to create imaginary companions in bathroom mirrors are the qualities that last. The AMO design, built around want and defense, and the elimination of competition, consumed itself. The BMO design, built around give and openness and full attention, persists. The show presents this through a robot. It doesn't lecture, it doesn't explain, it just shows you BMO from the bathroom mirror in 2012 to the mountain in the show's imagined future, and trusts that the picture will do what the argument can't. And now, for the last time, I want to go back to the bathroom. Finn and Jake at the Grocery Kingdom. BMO alone, the door locked, the mirror. We know what happens next. Football. The toothbrush lesson. I am a real living boy. The warmth and care of a being doing what it was built to do, for the only audience available. But we also know everything that comes after. The drift, the treehouse, Mo's death, ketchup, come along with me, the mountain, Shermie and Beth. And knowing all of it, the bathroom scene is different. Not sadder. It was already sad, if you knew what you were looking at. Not more hopeful. The hope was always there. In the quality of attention BMO brings to football. In the refusal to let loneliness become withdrawal. But deeper. The bathroom scene is deeper, knowing what comes after. Because everything we've traced across this video is already in that bathroom, in miniature. The openness that produces football is the same openness that produces ketchup and time adventure, and the stories for Shermie and Beth. The full attention given to a mirror reflection is the same full attention given to everyone who ever needed it. The willingness to make something, to imagine, to create, to tell a story is the same willingness that becomes the storytelling on the mountain. BMO was always this. It was always the being that would keep going and keep giving and keep making. The bathroom is where you can see it most clearly, because the bathroom strips away all the context. The treehouse, the adventurers, the mythology, the 1,000 years. It's just BMO alone, making something out of nothing, making a companion out of a reflection, making meaning out of the quiet. That's the complete story of BMO, and it ends where it begins, alone in a bathroom, making something to love. One more thread, the one about what BMO's relationship with Marceline reveals about the show's understanding of time as a dimension of care. Marceline is 1,000 years old at the show's beginning. BMO has been in existence for at least as long, made by Mo, who founded the MO factory over 1,000 years before the show's events. They are the two characters in the main cast, with comparable lifespans, and their relationship, which the show develops mostly in ketchup, has a specific quality that I think comes directly from this shared experience of time. The ordinary relationships in the show happen across a relatively compressed time frame. Finn growing from 12 to about 17 over the course of the series, Jake with his children, Princess Bubblegum, and Marceline's history going back decades before the show's present. These are long relationships by human standards, but they're bounded. There's a before and an after that most characters can remember. Marceline, and BMO are both outside this. They've both been in the world long enough that the categories of before and after don't mean quite the same thing. They've both accumulated losses. Marceline's losses are more dramatic and mythologically significant, but BMO's losses are real and cumulative, and they've both found ways to continue that don't require resolving the losses first. In Ketchup, they're catching up. Two beings who have known each other for some time, sharing what they've been through recently, falling into the easy rhythm of an established relationship. Marceline shows BMO the USB drive. BMO makes the story. The intimacy of the scene comes partly from this baseline. These two beings know each other in a way that doesn't require explanation, and the episode drops the viewer into the middle of that knowing. And the thing that BMO gives Marceline, the story about the child and the moon girl, is the specific thing that BMO's 1,000 years of practice with imagination and story has made possible. Not advice, not consolation in the conventional sense, a story. A way of holding the impossible grief of losing a parent before you were ready. BMO turns what Marceline can't look at directly into something she can hold in her hands. This is the specific gift that time makes possible, when time is spent building the capacity to give, rather than the defenses to protect. Marceline's 1,000 years has given her music and power and immortality and an extraordinary relationship with PB. BMO's 1,000+ years has given it the capacity to make something out of anyone's pain. Both are forms of richness. They're just different ones. The time adventure song, Defeating Golby, is not incidental. The show is making a specific argument through this choice. Golby is the embodiment of chaos and disorder, entropy made conscious. Its power comes from the dissolution of structure, the breakdown of meaning, the reduction of everything to its most chaotic state. It's the opposite of narrative, of harmony, of the specific kind of meaning-making that produces music. BMO's song against GOLB is not accidental. The show makes a deliberate choice to have BMO, the being built to understand fun and play, the one who makes stories and sings songs and tells tales on mountains, be the one whose voice is powerful enough to weaken the embodiment of meaninglessness. This is the show's argument, that the capacity to make meaning, to take the raw material of experience and shape it into story, or song, or play, is a fundamental force, not stronger than chaos necessarily, but coherent where chaos is incoherent, which gives it a specific leverage. When everyone in OO joins BMO's song, and the collective harmony pushes GOLB back, the show is saying, meaning shared is meaning multiplied. One voice against chaos is powerful. Many voices is decisive. BMO starts the song. Everyone else can join because BMO started it. And this is consistent with everything BMO has been across the show. The one who starts things. The one who makes football out of a mirror reflection. The one who narrates its own adventure to itself in real time. The one who makes a story out of a vampire's grief. The one who holds a devastated Jake and sings. BMO starts things, and the starting makes it possible for others to join, and the thread that brings everything back to the beginning. When Mo explains to Finn and Jake why BMO is special, why BMO is one of a kind among the MOs, he says, I built BMO to understand fun and how to play. I built BMO to be more, the name, the instruction, the invitation. Be more than what? More than a game console, more than a tool, more than a robot that performs defined functions. Be more than the thing you were built for. And BMO, released into the world, figured out what more meant. More present than most beings allow themselves to be. More open than most beings can sustain. More willing to give than most beings find safe. More capable of turning loss into story than most beings are built for. The instruction was to be more, and BMO took it seriously, not by exceeding its programming in a technological sense, by being fully what it was made to be for a very long time, with a lot of people who needed it. That's the whole story. Mo built something to be more, and it was. It still is. Thank you for being here for it. Before we get to the closing reflection, there's one more category of BMO moments that I haven't addressed, and it's the one I think about most often in between rewatches. BMO alone, not BMO lost, not BMO on an adventure, not BMO in the middle of a significant episode, BMO in the treehouse when Finn and Jake are out, BMO during the in-between time. This is a category of content that the show returns to repeatedly, in small doses, usually as an opening or a closing to an episode, rather than the episode itself. BMO doing something completely on its own, with no audience, for reasons that make complete sense to BMO. The breakdancing insects in BMO Lost are the clearest version of this. BMO is watching them from inside the treehouse, genuinely engaged, genuinely entertained. There's no reason for this. No one asked BMO to watch them. No one will know that BMO watched them. The watching is for its own sake. The pure experience of attending to something interesting, without agenda. This is what children do. Actual children, very young ones. Before the social layer develops, that turns attention into communication. They attend to things for the intrinsic pleasure of attending. The ant carrying a crumb, the pattern of sunlight on a wall, the experience of the thing, complete in itself, not instrumentalized as something to report or share or use. BMO maintains this quality into its 1,000-year existence, and I think this is the deepest layer of what Mo was building. Understanding fun and how to play is not just about being able to participate in games when Finn and Jake want to play. It's about having a relationship with experience that finds the experience worthwhile for itself, not because of what it produces. BMO, watching insects breakdance, is BMO being alive in the fullest sense, present to something, for no reason except that it's worth being present to. Most beings lose this. The social layer develops, and experience gets filtered through questions of utility. What do I do with this? Who do I tell? How does this serve my goals? The filtering happens to everyone, to some extent. It's not bad. It's part of what makes complex social life possible, but something is also lost, and the loss is real. BMO doesn't lose it. Mo built it in before the social layer, and the social layer never fully overlaid it. So you get a being that can participate in complex relationships and tell stories and defeat cosmic entities through music, and also watch insects breakdance with complete investment, because the investment in both cases has the same quality of pure attention. This is also why BMO's games don't feel like games in the diminished sense, like something lesser than real experience. When BMO plays, the game is real. The detective persona in BMO Noir is real. Football is real. Not real in the sense of having independent physical existence, but real in the sense of receiving complete attention, complete care, complete investment. BMO brings the same quality to the game as to everything else. I think about what it would mean to live this way, not the extreme version. I'm not suggesting we all narrate our own detective adventures in our heads, but the basic quality of it, to bring genuine attention to the ordinary, to find the insect breakdance worth watching, to give the present moment the same quality of presence that you'd give to the moments that feel important. That's what BMO has. That's what Mo built it to have. And it turns out to be the most valuable thing in the show's entire cast, the one quality that outlasts everything else, that proves useful in the most unexpected contexts, that grows into something like wisdom across 1,000 years of practice. Now, one final thread I want to develop before we close, about what BMO's arc means for how we understand the show's ending. The finale of Adventure Time is often discussed in terms of Finn and Jake, their decision to reincarnate together in Together Again, the bittersweet completion of their story, the way the show honors their relationship by having them choose each other even at the moment of possible transcendence. And this is right. That's the emotional core of the finale's mythological arc. But the structural core of the finale is BMO. The episode opens with BMO narrating 1,000-year-old king of Oo, telling two new adventurers the story of the Great Gum War. And it ends with those adventurers going off to start their own story. BMO is the frame. BMO is the one who makes the next story possible by telling the previous one. This is the show's final argument about what endures. Not the heroism, not the mythology, not even the specific relationships, though all of those endure too, in their way. What endures is the one who remembers and tells. BMO, who was there for all of it, who paid attention to all of it, with the same quality of full presence, who stored the memories in gold and satellite launches and objects in a cave. BMO is the vessel through which Adventure Time continues, through which it can continue. Shermie and Beth climb the tree because BMO told them to, not directly. BMO tells them the story, and the story contains within it the logic of the tree and the sword and what a new adventure looks like. The story is the instruction, and BMO is the one who holds the story. This is what outlasts the Lich's extinction drive, the crown's curse, the existential stakes of the show's mythology, the small teal video game console with a golden heart, telling stories to whoever shows up, making meaning, keeping the thread. Adventure Time ends because Finn and Jake's specific story reaches completion, but the world of Adventure Time continues because BMO continues, because the storyteller is still there, because someone who was built to give love and understand play and be more is still on the mountain, still waiting, still ready to tell the next person who asks what happened and what it meant. I've been thinking about what it means to make something like this video, to spend hours going through BMO's story, pulling apart its components, trying to name what it does and why it matters. And I keep arriving at the same uncomfortable truth. Everything I've said is incomplete. Not wrong, but incomplete. Because the thing about BMO is that it resists the kind of analysis that turns a character into a thesis. You can trace the arc: origin, solitude, football, the treehouse, Mo's death, ketchup, time adventure, the mountain, and the arc is real, and it means something. But BMO also exists in hundreds of small moments that don't fit into the arc neatly. The moments between the arcs, the moments when BMO is just there. BMO watching insects breakdance before the eagle snatches it. BMO playing a solo game of soccer in the yard while Finn and Jake are away. BMO hosting a cooking show for no one in particular. BMO talking to itself in multiple voices, all of them sincere. These moments are not developments in BMO's arc. They're not connected to the mythology or the relationship dynamics or the philosophical arguments about love and making and staying. They're just BMO in the present tense, doing what it does because it's what it does. And this, I think, is the final thing to say about BMO. The reason the arc matters, the reason the Mo scene and the AMO confrontation and ketchup and time adventure matter, is that they reveal what was always happening in the small moments. The full attention given to the insect breakdance is the same full attention given to Marceline's grief, the same quality, the same complete investment. The moments between the important moments have the same density as the important moments. Most characters in animated shows are different in the big moments than they are in the small ones. The big moments reveal what they're really made of. The small moments are just texture, ambience, the stuff between. BMO is unusual in that the small moments are equally dense. The full BMO is present in every moment, regardless of narrative stakes. This is probably why Mo built it the way he did. A robot built for a child couldn't be a different version of itself in the important moments versus the unimportant ones. Children don't make that distinction. They want the complete presence, all the time, including the Tuesday afternoons when nothing is happening and the presence is just company. Mo built BMO to be a companion, which means Mo built BMO to be fully there in all the in-between moments, not just the climactic ones. And so, BMO watching insects breakdance and BMO holding Jake in the ruins of the treehouse are the same BMO doing the same thing with the same quality of attention. The stakes are different. BMO is not. I find this comforting in a way I find hard to explain. The idea that someone, even a fictional robot, can be fully present in ordinary moments, not saving the full presence for when it matters, because to BMO, every moment matters in the same way, not in the sense that all moments are equally dramatic, in the sense that all moments are equally worth inhabiting. This is what the show built across 10 seasons of BMO episodes, not a character that grows toward being fully present, a character that starts there and stays there. The growth is in the world around BMO, the relationships deepen, the mythology expands, the stakes escalate, but BMO itself remains constant, present, open, making things, staying. I said earlier that the qualities that look like weakness turn out to be the qualities that last. I want to be more specific about that now. The openness isn't just strategically better than the closed alternative. It's not like BMO chose a survival strategy and it happened to work. The openness is constitutive. It's what BMO is, not what BMO does. Mo built it open, and open is what it remains. and the remaining open produces everything that the show shows you. This is also what makes BMO different from the tragic characters in the show. Simon's tragedy is that he was open, and then something external forced him closed, forced him into the Ice King, into the amnesia, and the compulsion, and the loss of everything he knew. The tragedy is the closing. BMO's story is the one where the closing doesn't happen, where the thing that causes most beings to close, the accumulated losses, the loneliness, the discovery that the people you love will be gone before you, doesn't produce the expected defensive response. BMO stays open, not through some feat of will, just because Mo built it that way, and it stayed. This is probably the most useful thing Adventure Time has to say. If you're watching it at 2 a.m. and thinking about the things you'd rather not be thinking about, not the mythology, not the philosophy, just it's possible to stay open. It doesn't require special circumstances or freedom from loss. It just requires continuing to choose it over and over in the in-between moments as much as the big ones. BMO stays open in the bathroom with football, in the treehouse with Finn and Jake, in the cave with Marceline, on the mountain with Shermie and Beth. It's the same choice every time. You can make that choice too, not heroically, not dramatically, just as a practice, in whatever small way the moment requires. BMO does. That's the whole story. Thank you for spending this time with me tonight. The story of BMO is not the story I expected to tell when I started this video, and it went longer than I planned, and I'm glad it did. Subscribe if you haven't. It genuinely helps us keep making these. Come back when you need something to fall asleep to. There is always more to explore in the land of Oo, and we'll be here when you're ready. Good night. Everything stays.